My parents forced my children into the basement for my brother's newborn. By Christmas, they were the ones knocking at our door. I shut it without saying a thing. Have you ever been told you're just not good enough? It's devastating when that comes from your own parents. But when they start treating your children like they're nothing more than a number, like they don't count, that's a betrayal that can almost rip your world apart. This is my story. It's about an unexpected act of cruelty that nearly broke us, and how we found our way back to ourselves. My name is Odora, and I'm 46. 2 years ago, my world came crashing down. My husband, Victor, and I filed for divorce after 13 years of marriage. Personally, I was crushed. Financially, I was in shambles. I was a pediatric nurse, working part-time, raising our twin daughters, Oliver and Camelia, they're 11 now, while supporting Victor, a software engineer. The divorce, with its divided custody and low alimony, meant facing the terrifying reality of having to keep us afloat entirely on my own. That's when my parents, Gloria and Carlos, stepped in. "Just until you get back on your feet," Dad murmured, patting my shoulder. I remember saying, "Thank you so much." Our relationship had always been complicated. My younger brother, Justin, was the golden child, never breaking the rules. I was the responsible one, the rule follower. I loved working with children, so I put myself through 8 years of nursing school, paying every dime. My path was quiet, steady. Justin, on the other hand, was 33, making 6 figures after dropping out of college to launch a digital company my parents had funded. The bias was so ingrained, I barely even thought about it anymore. My twins, Oliver and Camelia, are the most delightful kids. Oliver, always the artist, the builder, with a tender heart. Camelia, my little athlete, bold, self-assured, always the first to fight for justice. Despite the chaos of the divorce and the move, they were thriving. Things seemed okay when we first moved in. My parents turned their office into a bedroom for the twins, and I got the guest room. I took on most of the cooking, helped with groceries, and kept the peace with the kids. My parents helped with school drop-offs and pickups, which was vital since my shifts at the children's hospital were often 12 hours, sometimes overnight. The plan was simple: save enough money in a year for a security deposit and first month's rent. I was incredibly frugal, picking up extra shifts, saving every single penny. I was desperate to give my children stability again. Then, Justin and Rachel had their son, Noah. And everything changed. My parents had always favored Justin, but their reaction to his baby was completely off the charts. Even though Justin and Rachel lived across town in a 4-bedroom house, they turned their formal dining room into a nursery, spending a fortune on baby gear that would only see action during doctor's appointments. As soon as Noah took his first breath, Mom started backing out of her arrangements to help with my kids. "Your brother needs more support right now," she'd say. "He's new to parenting." She somehow missed the irony of me being a single mom for 3 years already. For a while, I tried to be understanding. A new grandchild, their first grandson, it was a reason to celebrate. Oliver and Camelia had been their only grandkids for a decade. Maybe it was just the novelty. The favoritism, mild at first, began to intensify. But I urged my children to be patient, explaining that baby Noah needed extra care. Christmas presents for Noah were noticeably more expensive. Remarks about Noah's striking resemblance to Justin's baby photos, while Oliver and Camelia were consistently told they were more like their father than me. Small things, yes, but they stung. I tried to compensate, carving out quality time just for us. On my days off, we'd watch movies in my room or go to the park. I even started a savings chart on my bathroom wall. Just a few more months, I promised them. Then we'll have our own home. By Christmas. But as summer bled into fall, the tension in the house grew. My parents found fault with every parenting decision I made, from the food I gave the twins to their bedtime, even their screen time. Meanwhile, Justin and Rachel were untouchable. Perfect. I had to balance keeping the peace at home with protecting my children from realizing their grandparents were treating them differently. My parents' help was essential. Even with saving for our relocation, I couldn't afford childcare. By the end of summer, I had saved a considerable amount. My calculations showed I'd have enough for a modest 2-bedroom apartment by November. Just 3 more months, I reminded myself. 3 more months of holding my tongue. 3 more months of gently reminding my children we're just visitors. 3 more months of watching my parents lavish praise on Noah while ignoring Oliver and Camelia's successes. I had no idea things would escalate so rapidly before those 3 months were up. In September, things took a turn for the worse. Justin called a family meeting. Baby Noah, whose outfit probably cost more than my monthly food budget, sat at my parents' kitchen table with him and Rachel. Justin looked at our parents, not me, when he announced, "We're finally doing that major renovation on our house." My mom clapped her hands in excitement. Rachel, bouncing Noah on her knee, chimed in, "It's wonderful, sweetie." Before I could even process what was happening, my father nodded eagerly. "The thing is, we'll need somewhere to stay during the construction. It should only be about 7 to 9 weeks. You'll stay here, of course. We have plenty of room." I nearly choked on my saliva. My mother gave me a sidelong glance. "Actually, we're a bit tight on space already, with the 5 of us. Family helps family, Odora. It's only temporary." And just like that, the decision was made. My feelings weren't consulted. The consequences for Oliver and Camelia were disregarded. The fact that I had been told the exact same thing about our short-term stay, which was rapidly approaching 2 years, wasn't acknowledged by anyone. The following weekend, Justin and Rachel moved in. My dad helped them set up a portable crib for Noah, even though Justin never once offered to help set up the twins' beds. Rachel's belongings took up an entire closet, while I lived out of suitcases for months until I could get a small dresser. There was a sudden, jarring shift. Suddenly, Oliver and Camelia were constantly being told to be quiet because Noah was napping. Their once freely used toys were now deemed unnecessary and relegated to storage bins. After-school TV time for the kids turned into Rachel's shows being on the screen all the time. One evening, I returned home after a particularly long shift to find Camelia sitting alone on the back porch, her eyes welling with tears. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, sitting beside her. "Grandma said I was being too loud with my jump rope," she stated, frustrated. But Noah wasn't even sleeping. He was in the living room with Aunt Rachel. She just didn't want to hear me counting my jumps. That same week, Oliver came home from school, excited about an art project. He was going to represent his class in a district-wide display. As he tried to show Mom, she brushed him aside. "Not now, Oliver," she said, without even looking up. "I'm helping Rachel pick out new curtains for their house." I watched my son's face fall, turning red with embarrassment. I tried to talk to my parents that evening, after the kids were in bed. "I understand Justin and his family need help," I said carefully, "but I'm concerned about how Oliver and Camelia are being treated. They feel like they're not important anymore." My dad scoffed. "They're being oversensitive. Kids need to learn that babies require more attention. Noah isn't even here most of the day." I countered. "Justin takes him to daycare before work, and Rachel picks him up. Oliver and Camelia aren't asking for attention during those hours." My mom let out a deep sigh. "You always were jealous of your brother, Odora. I thought you would have outgrown that by now." I fell into a profound stillness. Was it really my impression on them? Not as a caring mother, but as an envious sister. Things only got worse. Without my knowledge or consent, Rachel reorganized kitchen utensils, threw out the twins' nutritious foods, and left her washing in the machine for days. Justin casually invited friends over for watch parties, as if he owned the place, without bothering to ask if anyone else had plans. One night, I overheard my dad and Justin talking money. "We may have to postpone the renovation schedule," Justin was saying. "The contractor found some issues with the foundation." My dad gave a warm response, "Stay as long as you need. This is your home, too." Despite helping out financially and taking the lead in cooking and cleaning, I had never been told that. On the contrary, I was constantly reminded that their assistance was transitory and contingent. An early November Sunday dinner was the tipping point. All of Justin's favorite foods, made by my mom, were served. My kids weren't fans. Oliver politely asked if there was anything else he could eat, but my mom scolded him for being rude. "When I was growing up, we used to eat whatever was given to us," she stated with severity. Moments later, Noah tossed his entire plate to the floor. The group erupted in laughter. "He's just exploring his world," Rachel cooed, doing little to contain the mess. My normally polite son, even he picked up on the hypocrisy. He murmured to me, "Why is it that Noah can throw food, but I can't even ask for a sandwich?" My response was inadequate. That same week, I discovered someone had taken Oliver and Camelia's artwork off the fridge to make place for Noah's daycare schedule. When I asked, Rachel casually clarified that she wanted the information prominently displayed and didn't think anyone would object if she altered a few items. Eventually, the twins lost interest in playing anywhere else in the house. They sought refuge in their cramped shared bedroom, the one place they felt they had some control. After school, I started taking them to the library so they could have some quiet time away. During a particularly challenging shift, my coworker Julia noticed how stressed I was. "Oh Dora, is everything all right at home?" she inquired. I couldn't help but spill everything. "It sounds like your parents have created a household where your brother's family is treated as guests of honor, while you and your children are treated as inconvenient roommates. That's not a healthy environment for any of you," Julia observed after listening sympathetically. Her words stuck with me. Her assessment was accurate. It wasn't until I heard it spoken aloud that I realized how ingrained and unhealthy the dynamic truly was. That night, instead of heading straight home, I toured the area and contacted a real estate agent friend. "I need to get my kids out of this situation," I told her. "Sooner rather than later." By mid-November, things at home had gone downhill faster than I could have imagined. My parents were incredibly supportive of Justin and Rachel's takeover of the house. The indefinite extension of their remodeling, originally scheduled for 6 to 8 weeks, was now blamed on issues Justin was consistently evasive about. One day, I returned home and discovered a box in the recycling that showed my parents had spent approximately $450 on a specialized high chair for Noah. This was happening at the same time they were griping about how much Oliver's asthma prescription cost last week, a medication my insurance only partially paid for. "We want Noah to be comfortable when he eats here," my mom explained. "I said Oliver needs to breathe," I countered, my voice sharper than I intended, as if I were being unreasonable. My mother gave me the look. "Your father and I are on a fixed income, Odora. We can't be expected to cover everything for your children." Apparently, it didn't register that I paid for all my children's costs and contributed to household bills. It also didn't help that Justin and Rachel were both financially very successful. The next incident occurred while Camelia was honing her clarinet skills for band class. Just 15 minutes into her practice, Rachel barged in. "Can you not do that right now? Noah is trying to nap, and I have an important call in 10 minutes. Camelia apologized, put her instrument away, then broke down in tears, telling me she had been practicing for an upcoming virtual session and now she'd be unprepared. I tried to have a conversation with Rachel, suggesting we could arrange a practice schedule. She answered dismissively, emphasizing that her work calls and Noah's sleep pattern had to take precedence. "Camelia can practice her little hobby anytime." I bit my tongue, holding back words I knew I'd regret. Camelia's band teacher had remarked on her exceptional talent, and she took great joy in her little hobby. In this environment, the most insignificant demands of Justin's family were prioritized over anything my children did. Even Oliver was struggling. His instructor emailed me, concerned about his lack of participation and deteriorating grades. My once outgoing, full-of-life boy had become reserved and anxious. When I asked him why, he patiently said, "Grandma and Grandpa get mad at us for everything. But they never get mad at Noah or Uncle Justin or Aunt Rachel." It broke my heart. To help fund our escape and alleviate some of the stress, I worked extra shifts. Justin and Rachel seemed relieved to have me gone, while my parents saw it as me avoiding my family duties. At a Thanksgiving dinner in late November, things escalated among relatives. Among the many family members who joined us was my Aunt Margaret, who had been nothing but supportive throughout the years. While we were eating, Mom went on an emotional tirade about how smart Noah was, even though he was only 9 months old. According to her, he was already making an effort to stand. Justin was an early walker, too. Some children just have that natural athletic ability. Oliver was her next target. It's a shame you didn't inherit that trait from your dad. Victor was always athletic, wasn't he? I watched Oliver's face fall. The inference was obvious. Noah's abilities came from my brother's stronger genetic line, while any good qualities my children had either came from their dad or were present regardless of my influence. Across the table, Aunt Margaret's worried face caught my attention. She took me aside after supper. "How long has this been going on?" she whispered. "It's always been this way to some degree," I told him. "But it's gotten much worse since Justin's family moved in. This is not good for your kids, Odora," she added, mirroring Julia's earlier words. "They deserve better than to be treated as second-class members of their own family." On the verge of tears, I nodded. "It's okay," I told her. "I'm working on it." And I was. I had been meeting with my real estate friend during lunch breaks in the weeks after my chat with Julia. After perusing numerous rental homes, I came across a charming 3-bedroom house, 10 minutes from the hospital, all while remaining in the same school district. Based on my good credit and consistent employment history, I was accepted, even though the rent was at the upper limit of my budget. Only Oliver and Camelia were unaware. I preferred not to raise their expectations until all matters were resolved. In just 1 week, on November 1st, the house would be ready for move-in. I had covertly scheduled utilities and ordered necessary furnishings to be delivered on that date. Aunt Margaret squeezed my hand. "If anything comes up, I'm here to help." To her surprise, her words carried more weight than she realized. I've been concerned about this situation for some time. My parents had warned me about being overly sensitive or envious, and I had started to doubt my own views. That the situation was really that horrible was the last piece of confidence I needed, and it came from someone else. As I woke up the following morning, I overheard my father and Justin talking about making some long-term plans. "The contractor says it could be another 3 months, Justin continued. "And honestly, with the baby, it might make more sense to just stay through the holidays." "You know, you're always welcome," my father responded with a warm greeting. "This is your home." They had informed me my stay was temporary and that I was expected to get my own place as quickly as possible. I wondered if either of them remembered that. If it weren't hurting my kids' feelings, the hypocrisy would have been funny. After supper that night, I broke our weekly routine and took the twins out for ice cream. Getting away from the stressful environment would allow me to spend quality time with them. "I have something important to tell you," I informed them. "No matter what Grandma and Grandpa say or do, you two are amazing, valuable people. The way they're treating you is not because of anything you have done wrong." Camelia, ever astute, scrutinized my countenance. "Are we going to move out soon?" Her wisdom took me by surprise. "What makes you ask that?" You've been working a lot more shifts, she informed me. And you seem different lately, less sad and more determined. From the mouths of babes. I was slow to see the shift in myself, but my daughter had noticed it first. Just be yourselves for a little while longer, I advised them, still not prepared to spill the beans about my scheme. Can you do that for me? I noticed a glimmer of hope that had been absent for far too long in their eyes as they both nodded. When we got home, Rachel was making a big deal out of the twins' backpacks being in the hallway, even though Noah's stroller, diaper bag, and a number of toys were scattered throughout the common areas. Children need to learn to pick up after themselves, she lectured me, as if she were a parenting expert and I was just starting out. As I helped the children with their belongings, I forced a tight smile and reminded myself that we would only have to endure this for a short while longer. Little did I know that things were going to get out of hand far faster than I had anticipated. My 12-hour shift was supposed to take place the following Tuesday. The pediatric unit was extremely bustling that day. Even though my lunch break was brief, I managed to check my phone and discovered that Oliver and Camelia had both sent me multiple missed texts. Oliver's message, "Mom, something weird is happening. Grandpa and Uncle Justin are moving our stuff." Camelia's message, "Grandma says we have to move to the basement. This is not fair." Oliver's message, "Mom, please come home. They took all our things downstairs." Camelia writes, "I hate it here. The basement is cold and gross and there are spiders." My pulse raced. It didn't take long for me to dial home. No response. Both of the kids' phones. No response. At last, I texted Camelia, "I'll be home as soon as I can. Stay calm. I love you both." I spoke with my supervisor about the family emergency. She was incredibly kind and even arranged coverage for the 4 hours I needed. However, I still needed an additional hour to finish vital paperwork and transfer patients before I could depart. 20 minutes of my life were squandered on the journey home. I was in a daze. Did my parents really relocate my siblings and me to the unfinished, inadequately insulated, and occasionally water-seeping basement? I inhaled deeply as I entered the driveway. I had to take stock of the situation objectively. Upon entering, my worst concerns were validated by the sight before me. With their red-rimmed eyes, Oliver and Camelia were huddled on the living room couch. Rachel and my mom were in the kitchen sipping tea as if nothing out of the ordinary had transpired. Neither Justin nor my dad could be located. By the time I reached my kids, I had already questioned, "What is going on?" Camelia leaped to her feet and embraced me tightly. "They stowed away all our belongings in the basement without our knowledge or consent. They claim that we are unworthy of the nice rooms upstairs." Oliver gave a terrible nod. Grandpa said, "Uncle Justin's family needs more space because they're more important right now." My wrath was boiling over, but I held my tongue for their benefit as I embraced them both firmly. "Let me talk to Grandma and see what's happening." Mother hardly raised her eyes from her work in the kitchen. "You're out of here early," she noted. "Why are my children's belongings in the basement?" I inquired simply. Tea was drank by Rachel. We needed to make some adjustments to the living arrangements. Justin and I need a nursery for Noah, plus space for my home office now that my company has gone remote. "So, you decided to move Oliver and Camelia to the unfinished basement without discussing it with me first?" My tone was icy. Finally, I was able to meet my mother's gaze. It was the logical solution. The children are older and can adapt more easily than a baby. Besides, our other grandson deserves the best rooms. He's here all day while your children are at school. I couldn't believe the nonchalant brutality of her words. My children deserve a safe, comfortable space just as much as Noah does. "Oh Dora, my mom told me not to be theatrical. The basement is perfectly fine. We put their beds down there and everything. The basement has mold in one corner, gets freezing cold at night, and the ceiling is unfinished," I said. Not to mention, there's only one small window that doesn't even open properly. They'll manage, my mom stated with more conviction. Family means making sacrifices. It would appear that her conception of family sacrifice only applied to my children and not Justin's. My brother and dad entered the house through the rear door just then. Upon seeing me, my father remarked, "Oh, good. You're home. We've made some changes that we need to discuss." I responded with a staccato, "Yes, I can see that." Trying not to sound defensive. "You moved my children's belongings to the basement without my permission." Without saying a word, Justin shrugged. "We need the space upstairs. Noah is getting more mobile and needs room to develop properly. Plus, Rachel needs a quiet space for her work calls. And my children need a safe, appropriate bedroom," I declared. "The basement is fine," my father answered with a sideways glance. I put in some extra lights and laid down some old carpet scraps. They should be grateful they have a place to stay at all. As if I were seeing him for the very first time, I just stared at him. I had spent years attempting to win over my biological father, but he had just shown how unappreciative he was of my family. "Oliver has asthma," I reminded them. "The basement is damp and has visible mold. It could trigger a serious attack." "You're overreacting as usual," Justin remarked, his expression betraying his customary frustration. "Kids are resilient. Rachel and I grew up in much worse conditions, didn't we, honey?" Although I was well aware that Rachel had grown up in a wealthy suburban home with 5 bedrooms, she nodded in agreement. Anyway, I glanced around at the 4 grown-ups who had made this choice. There was not an iota of shame or comprehension from any of them. This made complete sense to them. I felt bad that my kids would have to make do with leftovers, but the family of the golden child deserved the best. Oliver and Camelia were waiting nervously in the living room, so I made my way back there. They were so full of faith and expectation that I would find a solution as they gazed up at me. At that very second, a cool certainty regarding the next step crystallized within me. Regardless of the gravity of the situation, I mustered up a genuine grin and spoke the 3 words that would alter the course of history: "Pack your bags." They appeared perplexed, but I simply gave them encouraging nods. "Believe me," I pleaded. "Pack everything important to you. We'll get the rest later." As I made my way into the living area, my father trailed behind and overheard. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Odora, stop being so dramatic. No one is asking you to leave." I smiled and turned to him. "No, Dad. You just made it abundantly clear where my children and I stand in this family, and we deserve better." "What on earth are you talking about?" my dad stuttered while Oliver and Camelia just stared at us funny. "Please continue," I whispered softly to the kids. "Go pack your backpacks with your most important things. We'll come back for the rest tomorrow." My mom walked into the living room as they ran upstairs. "What nonsense is this now? You can't just leave because things didn't go your way." With Noah resting on Justin's hip, Rachel and Justin trailed behind. It seemed like the whole gang had come for the showdown. "Things are not going my way," I explained in a calm style. "This is about basic respect and consideration, which has been sorely lacking in this household. We've provided you with a place to live for almost 2 years, my dad proudly announced. How dare you talk about lack of consideration? Yes, you have, I said. And I have been grateful. I have also contributed financially, done most of the cooking and cleaning, and made sure my children respected your rules and space. But today, you crossed the line. Scoffing, Rachel walked away. It's just a bedroom rearrangement. You're being ridiculously oversensitive. I looked over at her. Is that what you would call it if someone moved your child to an unsuitable space without consulting you first? For that, she was at a loss. My mom really wanted me to believe that the basement was big enough. We raised you and Justin without all these special accommodations kids seem to need nowadays. Mold is growing in the basement, I said again. Oliver has asthma. It's also cold, damp, and has inadequate emergency exits. It is not a legal bedroom by any housing code standard. The way my dad waved his hand was so dismissive. Those codes are just government overreach. So ridiculous, it nearly made me giggle. When safety regulations were inconveniencing him, he now saw them as government overreach. However, I had a feeling he would have a different opinion if he were the one being forced to stay in poor accommodations. With a mischievous grin on your face, what direction do you intend to travel? Justin inquired. It's not like you've been saving much. What with your spending habits? The underlying misconception that they all shared was laid bare. Notwithstanding my independence and my ability to support myself, they viewed me as financially dependent and careless. In their minds, I was completely helpless and unable to make a decision or stand on my own. That is where you are wrong, was my simple reply. I have been saving since the day I moved in here. I've been working extra shifts and building my emergency fund. And 3 weeks ago, I signed a lease on a house not far from here. I found great satisfaction in the startled quiet. My mom recovered first. Were you planning to depart without informing us? She inquired, her voice quivering with an instrument of artificial pain. I was planning to give you proper notice next week, I pointed out. The house isn't available until November 1st, but today's events have accelerated my timeline. You must be kidding, Justin remarked. Where are you going to stay until then? At this point, it is irrelevant to you, I said. The fact is that I had already spoken with Julia at work, who kindly gave me her guest room for a couple of days. There was a disturbing reddening of my father's face. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. By sneaking around behind our backs and then storming out over a minor disagreement. Minor disagreement? I said with astonishment. You moved my children's belongings to an unsafe space without my knowledge or consent. You told them to their faces that they don't deserve the same comfort and consideration as their cousin. That is not minor, Dad. That is a fundamental statement about how you value them and me. Oliver and Camelia returned to the lower level accompanied by rucksacks and purses. As Camelia held firmly onto her clarinet case, Oliver possessed his beloved painting materials and the plush dragon he had cuddled with since he was 3 years old. We're ready, Mom. Camelia declared, her voice booming with an intensity one hadn't heard from her in weeks. This is crazy, my mom said. You cannot seriously be leaving right now. I verified, saying, we are. We'll come back tomorrow to get the rest of our things when everyone has had a chance to calm down. You won't be welcomed back with open arms if you walk out that door, my father said despondently. I met his gaze. I stopped expecting that a long time ago, Dad. Suddenly cognizant that what was truly transpiring Justin advanced. Come on, sis, let's talk about this rationally. There's no need to make a scene in front of the kids. My children have already been shown exactly where they stand in this family's hierarchy, I told him. There is nothing more to discuss tonight. From the porch, my family watched with expressions ranging from rage to bewilderment as I assisted Oliver and Camelia in loading their things into the car. The truth of my departure was too much for them to bear, because they were so sure of their control over me and my reliance on them. My mom dashed over to my window the second I turned the key in the ignition. Oh Dora, please, you're overreacting. Come back inside and we'll figure something out. We'll talk tomorrow, was my firm response. When I come to get our things, she inquired, slightly less angry than before, but where will you go? Somewhere my children are valued, I responded plainly, before getting in my car and driving away. Oliver and Camelia were gazing back at the house that had been our home for almost 2 years in the rearview mirror. Realizing this, I felt a sense of relief rather than despair. Are we really relocating to our own house? Oliver inquired with a hint of awe. Almost, I informed him. We have a house waiting for us, but we can't move in until next week. Tonight, we're going to stay with my friend Julia from work. Is it because of what Grandpa and Grandma did? Camelia probed further. Words were carefully selected by me. It's because we deserve to live somewhere where everyone is treated with respect and kindness. I've been planning for us to move out for a while now, but yes, what happened today made me realize we needed to leave sooner. In a low voice, Oliver expressed his disapproval of the way they discussed us, like we weren't important. The words he spoke slightly crushed my heart. You two are absolutely crucial, I told them. And anyone who cannot see that does not deserve to have you in their lives. Julia was incredibly kind when we arrived at her house. She had already set up her guest room with a queen bed for me and an inflatable mattress for the kids. To top it all off, she had rented a movie and purchased ice cream so that we could enjoy them together. Julia drew me away while the twins got comfortable, eating their ice cream with muted excitement. A simple "I'm proud of you" was all she said. It takes courage to set boundaries with family. It was something I regretted not doing sooner, I confessed, before they hurt my kids like this. You're doing it now, she pointed out. And that is what matters. I experienced a bizarre whirlwind of feelings that night in the odd room as Oliver and Camelia slept next to me. I was sad about what could have been, angry at how we were treated, and anxious about what the future held. However, a profound calmness lay beneath it all. I had finally, after a long period of doubt, stood firm in defense of my family. The following day would bring additional difficulties, reclaiming our possessions, enduring the unavoidable manipulation of our emotions, and completing the necessary paperwork for our new residence. But when I saw my kids sleep soundly, I was sure I had made the correct choice. This evening, our shackles were finally coming off. My request for a sick day at work was approved the following morning. I turned down Julia's offer to take the twins to her house. I stated that they needed to finish what they started. It's important for them to know we are doing this together. We knew that everyone would be home when we got at my parents' place around 10 a.m. Upon seeing the twins, my father's scowl subsided just a little bit as he answered the door. He called out to me saying, "Come to apologize for your tantrum." "No," I responded blandly. "We have come to get our things." Once again, he froze. "Your mother has been upset all night because of your dramatic exit." By saying, "I'm sorry she's upset," I meant it. I was being quite serious just then. No matter what, I never intended to cause my parents any pain. I simply had to ensure the safety of my children. But we are still moving out. Reluctantly, he moved to the side. My mom sat in the living room, her red-rimmed eyes a sign of sleep deprivation or tears. It was clear that Justin and Rachel weren't there. I inquired, "Where are Justin and Rachel?" "They brought Noah to the park," my mom said. "They thought it would be less stressful if they weren't here while you got your things." It was nice that they had shown some thought. "Oliver and Camelia," I told them, "go and get your rooms. Remember what we talked about in the car. Just pack what you need and love. We can replace the rest." My mom looked at me as they made their way upstairs and said, "I cannot believe you are doing this to us." "I am not harming you in any way," I reprimanded. "I am doing something for my children and myself." "Everything has been provided to you," she repeatedly stated. "A place to stay when you had nowhere to go. Help with the children. Emotional support during your divorce. By the way, I must admit that I have been thankful. But that does not mean my children should be treated as less valuable than Noah." "We never said that," she objected strenuously. "You didn't have to say it. Your actions made it perfectly clear." Along with us, my father began to pace. "This is about Justin, isn't it? You've always been jealous of him." Disapprovingly, I shook my head. "This is not about Justin. This is about Oliver and Camelia being moved to an unsafe basement without my knowledge or consent. This is about you explicitly stating that Noah deserves the better room simply because he is Justin's son. I was accused by my mother that you were distorting our language. Am I? You said, and I quote, our other grandson deserves the best rooms. What exactly did you mean by that if not that my children deserve less? Not knowing what to say, she remained silent. My dad gave it one last go right before we left. This is a mistake, Odora. You are letting your pride get in the way of what is best for your children. No, Dad, I responded. For the first time in a long time, I am putting what is best for my children ahead of everything else, including your approval. Farewells to Oliver and Camelia's grandparents were awkward. Being taught to love and appreciate these individuals who had so casually harmed them made their internal conflicts clear. Will we ever see Grandma and Grandpa again? Camelia said as we drove away. Yes, I reassured her. But things will be different. We'll visit on our terms when we are treated with respect. A few days later, all was quiet at Julia's house. The twins' laughter and playfulness brought a sense of lightness that I hadn't witnessed in months. Meeting with the landlord to acquire the keys early allowed us to move in before the official start date. So, I took a day off to finalize details for our new house. With 3 bedrooms, a little backyard, and a kitchen that was flooded with natural light, the house was just right for us. It was conveniently located near the hospital, so my commute would be shorter, and it was inside their school district, so the twins wouldn't have to transfer schools. We brought in all of our possessions on Friday. A potentially tense day became more of a celebration thanks to Julia and a number of other coworkers who came to help. By nightfall, everything was ready. The kitchen was running well. The beds were made, and there was plenty of seating in the living area. I sat alone in my new living room and finally let myself weep that night after we ordered pizza and the twins went to bed in their separate rooms for the first time in nearly 2 years. I didn't feel sad, but I did feel some sadness. I felt relief and a bittersweet sense of accomplishment. Throughout the day, my parents' messages, ranging from furious accusations to heartfelt pleas to return home, had been ringing constantly on my phone. I had only replied once, informing them that we were okay and would get in touch when I was ready to continue the conversation. On Monday of the following week, my folks dropped by our new place without calling ahead. After dropping off the twins at school, I was getting ready to start my shift. I grudgingly allowed them inside and said, "How did you find our address?" As I did so, my dad confessed, "Your Aunt Margaret told us. She thought we should try to reconcile." As they took stock of our cozy yet unassuming new house, I brewed them a cup of coffee and watched. My mom pointed out that it was smaller than she had anticipated. "The 3 of us will be absolutely delighted," I responded. "You want you to come home," my father remarked bluntly. "This has gone on long enough. This is our home now," I declared with conviction. My mom stayed firm on the point that grandchildren benefit from having grandparents and their uncle and cousin. "What they need is to be treated with respect and love," I said. "When you can provide that consistently, you are welcome to be part of their lives." "We have always loved them," my mother objected vehemently. "Love is not just a feeling, Mom. It is how you treat people. It is the choices you make that show what you truly value." After nearly an hour of going through the motions of apologizing, pleading for family unity, and finally, reluctantly admitting that they might have been insensitive, they finally left. "We were unaware of the appearance from your vantage point," my dad said. "We just thought we were helping Justin and Rachel through a difficult time." "And I understand that," I responded. "But you helped them at the expense of my children's well-being and safety. That is something I cannot overlook." We were on the verge of reaching an agreement when they departed. They promised to be understanding of our new living arrangements and even invited us over for Sunday supper in 2 weeks. Even if it was just a baby step, it was progress. The word of our leaving made its way through the extended family over the course of the following several weeks. After seeing the favoritism firsthand, most people were on board with it. Particularly beloved by the twins was Aunt Margaret, who became a frequent visitor who brought baked cookies and showed true interest in their life. A promotion to the position of charge nurse on the pediatric floor, together with a substantial salary increase, came as a complete surprise to me at work. I would be able to spend more time with Oliver and Camelia if my hours were more consistent and there were less nighttime shifts. Through word of mouth inside the family, I learned that Justin and Rachel were struggling to manage without my assistance with child care and housework. My mom, who is in her 60s now, was exhausted from taking care of our energetic infant and the house on her own. The mood was tense but polite when we returned to that Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. I think Justin and Rachel were finally humbled by the realization that I had simplified their life in ways they had before underestimated. Their haughtiness had subsided. First and foremost, Oliver and Camelia appeared happier to me than they had in a long time. Oliver's instructor saw a marked improvement in his attentiveness and engagement, while Camelia flourished in her clarinet classes, where she could practice in peace every day without worrying about being interrupted or scolded. I knew I had made the correct choice when Camelia said something one night as I put her to bed, letting out a slumbering, "I like our house, Mom." She spoke to her mother. "I feel like I can breathe here." My daughter's unassuming comment meant more to me than any other form of affirmation I could have gotten. All the hardships we endured were worthwhile because we had built a home where my children could physically and emotionally breathe easy. We returned to a drastically different life 6 months after our sudden departure. With the addition of artwork on the refrigerator, the sound of laughter, and the pleasant chaos of family life, our little rented property had transformed into a genuine home. Oliver and Camelia flourished, their self-assurance regaining as they found a home where they were appreciated and held in high regard. With my promotion to charge nurse came not just a raise in pay and improved working hours, but also additional responsibility that both tested and enriched my nursing career. I felt like I was actually flourishing, not only surviving, for the very first time in my adult life. We had developed a cautiously amicable relationship with my parents. The monthly Sunday dinners became a ritual with well-defined and for the most part adhered to rules. My father continued to have difficulty understanding his part, but my mother had started to perceive the bias in our family dynamic. "I've been thinking a lot about last fall," my mom stated during one of her rare solo trips to our home. "I didn't realize how much we were hurting Oliver and Camelia." I inquired, "What made you see it?" since I was intensely interested in her development. As she sighed, her expression betraying her advanced years. "After you left, nothing was the same. Justin and Rachel stayed for another month, but without you there, I was overwhelmed trying to maintain the house and help with Noah. I started to realize how much you had been doing, how much I had taken you for granted. I took it as an apology since it was the only one I had gotten up to that point." She proceeded by saying, "Justin and Rachel started arguing all the time about child care, about the renovation that never seemed to end, about money. They moved back to their house before Christmas, even though the work wasn't finished. It did not astonish me. Those fissures had obviously grown wider without the wall of my parents' unwavering approbation and my own practical assistance. Though my true anxiety was unfounded, I inquired, "How are they doing now?" mainly out of politeness. "They're in couples counseling," my mom said. "Your father thinks it's nonsense, but I think it might help them." Rachel went back to work full-time and they're struggling with the child care arrangements. A tinge of sympathy persisted despite everything, and I nodded in agreement. Both of their relationships had never appeared to be firmly established, and parenting was no picnic. But my children underwent the most remarkable transformation. With the return of Oliver's innate creativity came a marked alleviation of his anxiousness. He had found success in an after-school art program where a patient instructor had seen his potential and encouraged him to pursue it. In the spring, Camelia mentioned trying out for the soccer team, and she had already made it into the advanced band at school. Camelia brought up her grandparents one night as we sat down to do a puzzle, a peaceful tradition we had started in our new house. She addressed her mother with great care. "Mom, why do you think Grandma and Grandpa treated us differently than Noah?" As she tried to put it all together, I thought about how to respond. I think people sometimes have fixed ideas about others that make it hard for them to see clearly. Grandma and Grandpa always saw Uncle Justin as special and deserving of extra attention. When he had Noah, they transferred those feelings to him. Then Oliver brought up the fact that they are our grandparents as well. Yes, I would agree. And they do love you. They just didn't know how to show it equally or fairly. So, Camelia wanted to know, is that why we left? Because they weren't fair. We left because everyone deserves to be treated with respect and kindness, I pointed out. When that wasn't happening, we needed to create our own space where we could all thrive. Oliver gave a measured nod. I like it better here anyway. At Grandma and Grandpa's house, I always felt like I was in the way. He was reassured that he would never get in the way here. This is your home, and you belong here exactly as you are. A chance opportunity presented itself in June. Thanks to my advertising and diligent saving, I was able to put a modest 3-bedroom house in our area on the market at a price that was just right for me. I went to a mortgage broker for advice and reviewed my financial situation before putting in a bid. I was pleasantly surprised when it was accepted. Leaving my parents' house with the aim of one day owning my own home was a pipe dream for me. Now, after a year and a half, it was starting to materialize. Though in need of some cosmetic upgrades, this house was in a fantastic position and had solid structural support. Above all else, it would belong to us. Their enthusiasm was infectious when I told the twins the news. Right, once they started making plans for their room decor, the front entrance, and the limited space in the backyard for a garden. Will it be possible to bring a dog with us when we move in? Oliver inquired with more optimism. We'll see, I said, while still being hesitant to commit but becoming more open to the notion. We are a small family and a dog would be the perfect addition. Buying the house unintentionally reintroduced my father to our family. He offered to go over the inspection report with me and had expertise with house buying despite our still strained relationship. We sat at my kitchen table studying the documents when he added, "The roof has at least 5 years left, but you'll want to budget for replacing the water heater sooner rather than later." His suggestions were sensible, and I liked that he was trying to be there for me without micromanaging or passing judgment on my choices. Our dynamic underwent a minor but noticeable change. Unexpectedly, he said, "I'm proud of you, Odora," before he left. Buying a house on your own is no small accomplishment. I was unprepared for the words that I had waited a long time to hear. "Thank you, Dad," was the only thing I could muster as a response. He hesitated. "I know I haven't always been fair. Your mother and I have been talking a lot about how we handled things. I can't change the past, but I'd like to do better going forward, even though it was incomplete." My proud and stubborn father's apology was significant. If he asked me if I would like it, I would honestly say yes. Oliver and Camelia were enrolled in school on the day of the house closing. When they returned home, I photographed the keys to show them, but I signed the documents alone. I broke down in tears as I stood in the deserted living room of our new home, which was now my home. Just 2 years ago, I was a mother who had just gone through a divorce with no clear direction in life, and who relied on the conditional support of my parents. I had finally achieved home ownership, been promoted in my job, and most importantly, could provide my children the loving home they deserved. The trip had its share of difficult moments when I had to face inconvenient facts about my loved ones and myself. I had to figure out that protecting my children sometimes meant removing myself from poisonous environments, that setting limits was not a sign of weakness, but of strength, and that my value was not based on how other people saw me. With the support of our friends, co-workers, and even my parents, we moved into our new house on a beautiful June Saturday. As we set up furniture, emptied boxes, and ordered pizza for all the helpers, the mood was festive. When it was only my parents and me on the back porch that night, we watched Oliver and Camellia play in the yard. My mom whispered, "This is a good home. You've done well, Odora." I responded with an unqualified, "Thank you," accepting the comment without reservation. I thought back on the path that had led us to this place as the sun dipped below the horizon on our first day here. The hurt I felt on that November day when my kids were thought less valuable than their cousin turned out to be the driving force for some good things happening. The most catastrophic betrayals can sometimes pave the way for the most essential escapes. What appeared to be the end, the day we gathered our belongings and departed from my parents' house, actually marked the start. A newfound sense of dignity, the ability to support oneself and the people I care about, and the opportunity to teach my children the value of standing up for what's right. I had come to understand that family was about more than simply blood or duty. It was all about choosing to appreciate people for who they really were, being consistently kind to them, and respecting one another. By welcoming those who treated us with the respect we merited, my children and I were able to build a healthy and supportive family unit of our own. A profound calm washed over me as I put the twins to sleep that night in their own bedrooms in our own home. Finally, we were on solid ground after surviving the storm. If you found this story inspiring, please subscribe to hear more true tales of family triumphs and give the video a thumbs up if it touched you. Also, I want to know, have you ever had to choose between two equally bad options in order to keep your loved ones safe? Put your tales in the comments section. I want to hear them. Never forget that getting up and making the life you and your kids deserve might at times be the most courageous thing you can do. Much obliged for your time.